Good morning, Carolina Village. My name is Aline, and you have joined me today for a session of our Village Vitality series, which is a chair yoga, breathing, mindfulness, balance, strengthening, kind of just encompassing so many aspects of wellness class. And for today, in terms of equipment, you can see how I have everything set up. So if you are using a yoga mat today, go ahead and get it set up what I call like lengthwise. We'll be doing some wide-legged postures in the chair. And so if you're using the mat because you have hard flooring, it's nice to get that padding under your feet. I do recommend grabbing your blocks if you have them. So same with the yoga mat. You don't have to have that. All you need is a chair, and preferably a chair without arms and that is sturdy, meaning it doesn't feel rickety. You feel supported. You don't feel like it will tip over if you come to the edge of it. So something a little more substantial. And if you do, though, have a throw blanket or a yoga blanket, go ahead and grab that because we'll be doing a couple back bends, leaning into the chair. And if you have a hard-backed chair, it can be a little uncomfortable on your back. So it's just nice to have a little extra padding there. And we might use it for a couple other things, too. Grab some water as well if you want. And for today's practice, you can wear shoes, you can be barefoot, you can be in sock feet, but just be mindful, we will be doing some standing postures. So if you're wearing socks, I really don't recommend it if you have hard floors, smooth floors, because then that just makes the slip risk a lot greater. So I think that those are all the pre-class disclaimers. Now, for today's class, something that I've been really working on, sometimes successfully, sometimes not at all successfully, is this concept of going with the flow. I like to think that I'm a really, relaxed, organic person, but I realize that I sometimes am a big control freak. And if my children don't do what I ask them to do, and if, I don't know the facts about everything, I get upset. And that's not great. And so one of the main teachings of yoga, if we look at yoga philosophy, is letting go of control, letting go of outcomes, letting go of expectation. And that doesn't mean that you just float along in life, that you have no ambitions, that you have no life goals, but it's how you approach your goals and your ambitions in your life, with the idea that we think that we can control things, but we really can't. Think about COVID. We might have all felt pretty in control of our lives, and then bam, something like COVID happens. Now we can't see our loved ones. Now we can't do this, can't do that, can't do this, can't do that. And that's a real big lesson, and I think a struggle that we're all dealing with, because we don't feel like we're in control anymore. So with today's class, you're probably thinking, well, how can yoga, I'm just stretching. How can this help with the idea of control or letting go? And the answer to that is the brain-body connection. So we're going to be working a lot with the hips today, with our sacral area. There's so many nerve endings here. I've heard, depending on who you talk to, different scientists kind of refer to it as your second brain, your gut brain. There's so many neurons and stuff like that, all very similar to our actual brain. And in yoga, the idea of physically releasing this area can be very powerful. So if we can release and open in the hips and these muscles around this area, then maybe we're tapping in and accessing that go with the flow mentality as well. So at the very least, if you're still sitting there like, oh, Lean, this is too much, at the very least, you'll feel really nice and loose in your hips after today's class. We'll also be doing a lot of flowing movements with the breath and working that mental flossing, that brain-body connection. So let's get to it. So I'm also going to do a couple things that may work your desire for control. So we're going to do some stuff that may be challenging, especially mentally with coordination. And that'll be kind of a little test for you. Like, can you just chill out and not worry so much about it being perfect and, trying to just go with it? Okay. So let's get started with a bit of a breathing technique. I haven't done this one in a while. This one is called breathing against the grain, or Viloma Pranayama. And with this technique, I recommend laying down. So if you have a couch, if you have a recliner type chair that you can move to, or just leaning back, and that's where the blanket comes into play a little bit here, leaning back on your chair. You just want to be as relaxed in your body as you can because you've got a lot to think about in terms of the mechanics of your breathing. So we don't want to complicate that by you having to focus on your posture and am I slouching or am I upright or things like that. So go ahead and get comfortable somewhere, preferably laying down, truly, if you can. So a lot of our breathing techniques are best done reclined because your rib cage, your body, your mind, everything's relaxed. So go ahead and let your eyes close here. And just begin to hone in your focus on the area of your ribs, your belly, your chest. Try to bring that focus so fine-tuned that you really don't even notice the other parts of your body. So the chest, the ribs, and the belly. If you'd like to, you could even bring a hand to the belly and the other hand to the chest, or hands to the ribs, just for a tactile approach here where you can feel the movement and feel those spaces. It can sometimes help you fine-tune that focus. And just start to notice how your body moves when you breathe. Maybe you've started deepening your breaths, and that's fine. Maybe you're just breathing regularly. That's also fine. Just see what you can observe. And with our breathing against the grain technique, what we'll be attempting to do is to draw in our inhales so deeply that we first feel the abdomen or the belly expand. Then we keep filling, keep inhaling, we feel the ribs expand. And then as we keep inhaling, like can't even fill any more air in, we'll feel that chest, maybe even the collarbones expand. And then on the exhale, we're trying to reverse that pattern. So as I exhale, I'm trying to feel the chest and collarbones relax or sink back, the ribs sink back, and then the belly sinks back. So you can think of filling your abdomen like a vessel. So you're filling it with air, or you're filling it with, sometimes I like to visualize water filling a pitcher or a cup. Sometimes I like to think of filling my vessel with positivity, love, understanding, peace, just things that I want to bring into my life. So you can really take this wherever you'd like to. But at a minimum, I would like for you, once we start this, to try for that big, deep inhale, belly expands, then ribs, then chest. And on that big, deep exhale, chest lowers, ribs lower, belly lowers. So go ahead and start whenever you feel ready. Inhaling, belly, ribs, chest, and exhaling, chest, ribs, belly. Inhale, belly fills, ribs, chest. Exhale, chest, ribs, belly. Keep breathing like this if you can. If you notice yourself getting frustrated, this is part of the purpose of this practice. Honestly, I believe that's why it's called, one of the reasons why it's called breathing against the grain. We're kind of rubbing you the wrong way. It's not easy. It is challenging that control side of you, even if you don't tend to be a person that maybe you already are very go with the flow. But there's always going to be some element of wanting to control, of getting upset when we can't reach this outcome. So see if you can just sit here and attempt to breathe in this pattern without getting upset or happy. So let's say you do it successfully and you're thinking, yeah, I conquered this. That's also an element of control, right? So see if you can be neutral here, just observing. Can you get those mechanics? Inhaling, belly, ribs, chest. Exhaling, chest, ribs, belly. And how neutral can you be while practicing? And sometimes we might find when we let go of that expectation or that desire to get this right, that we actually get it right. So take just a few more moments working on this pattern. Take 3 more inhales and exhales. And take your time to finish out those 3 breaths. But as you do finish, if you are laying on the couch or somewhere other than your chair, go ahead and start to make your way back to your chair. Those of you that are already in the chair, start to come to the edge of that seat. So we're going to sit upright now. Eyes can remain closed, or maybe eyelids are heavy. Just trying to keep that sense of looking inward, of calm that we've established with our breathing. And finding maybe the edge of your chair, the feet rooting into the floor, into the mat. Pressing down into the hips. Sometimes when we press down actively, it helps us lift up a little bit more. And once we make our way to this tall seat, Let's do just a little bit of a neck release here. So dropping that left ear towards the left shoulder. Notice the right side of your neck starting to stretch. Take that right hand and go ahead and grab underneath your seat. You may notice that just grabbing like that increases the stretch you're feeling. If you'd like to get more intensity in your stretch, start to lean over towards the left side. So you're kind of pulling gently away from the right hand. And when we push that shoulder down like we're doing, we can often stretch the neck muscles more. So from here, once you've found a comfortable edge with your stretch, you can start to just rotate that chin down towards the shoulder, changing and shifting the stretch, and then ear, so left ear moving back towards the shoulder. Maybe even you want to move that chin up towards the ceiling if that feels good. And so just finding a little bit of fluidity here. Going with that flow. Trying to really tap in and listen to the body. Do you want to be moving your head like this? Or do you want to just hold that stretch? What feels best, not what your brain is telling you to do. So just because Aline said try this doesn't mean that's what your body needs. Can you listen? Can you build that intuition? And when you've had enough of your neck stretching on that side, slowly start to come back to center, head back to center, release that right hand. And just see if you can tell any differences between right and left sides of the neck and the shoulder. If you can, cool. If you can't, cool. We're just working towards more connection. And now when you're ready, go ahead and drop that right ear down towards the right shoulder. First, just holding this simple version of the stretch. And maybe this is where you stay. But maybe it would feel good to take that left hand and grab underneath your chair. And just press that shoulder down a little more. And maybe you would like to lean over to the right any amount, pulling away from that left hand that's gripping the chair. And then perhaps you'd like to add the shifting of the head. So chin down towards the shoulder. And then ear towards the shoulder, or even chin moving up towards the ceiling. So we have a lot of neck muscles here that we're kind of stretching through as we move the chin. Our scalenes, our sternocleidomastoid, our upper trapezius muscles, and probably others that I don't even know about. See if you can shift and move and figure out what works best for your body, what feels what I call the juiciest. I like to talk about stretches on how juicy they are. So to me, juicy is like when my body is just like, yes, that feels so good. Get a lot of sensation. That's the juice. Slowly start to release this stretch. Coming out of that lean, bringing the head back to center, releasing that left hand. And from here, if your eyes aren't already open, go ahead and blink them open. Bringing that left hand on top of the right hand. So right hand is on that right thigh. And let's take an inhale. Follow that left thumb. Start to open out any amount into a twist here. Full inhale. And then exhale, coming back to center. Some of you may notice I usually never cue inhaling into a twist. So this is a little bit different. See if you'd like to change that breathing pattern. Inhaling, following that thumb, slowly filling that vessel, and then exhaling, releasing back to center. Go ahead and take 2 more twists to the side, moving at the pace of your breathing. Perhaps moving a little deeper with each twist, or perhaps not. I think the practice of yoga can really help us control freaks. In a way, sometimes it can probably make it worse. Because there really is no like right or wrong. We move with the body, with the breath. There are versions, there are things we should avoid that are unsafe, but all right, left hand on the left thigh, right hand on top. 5 breaths now, twisting to the right. So taking that inhale, trying to follow that thumb without breaking the gaze. Exhaling back to center. See if that full length of inhale can match the movement. So I come to the apex of my twist when I can't inhale anymore. And then I come back to the hands stacked when I can't exhale anymore. So you may need to move faster. Just depends on your vital capacity of your lungs and a couple other things, but basically it varies a lot from person to person. If you've been counting, great. If not, let's take 1 more. And release those hands. Let's go ahead and draw that right knee up, just up towards the chest, grabbing hold with that hand. We're going to attempt to do opposite shoulder and hip circling. So starting to circle with that left shoulder, right leg. How do you react if you don't get this right the first time? So I air quoted right because, again, there really is no right or wrong. Do you feel the need to perfectly match the shoulder movement with the hip movement? And if so, why? Do we make ourselves suffer more by trying to control more? The answer is probably yes. We think that it helps, but it just adds so much stress. Go ahead and reverse directions. Yeah, just when you thought you were going with the flow and you were okay with it, now I throw that curveball. And that's called life. That's one of the things that I think is so powerful about yoga, is just the things that we do on the mat can translate to life situations, to interactions with other people. Like I'm just rolling my shoulder and my knee, but I'm learning about myself when I do it. It's beautiful. 1 more circle. And release. Pause for a moment, just feeling anything you feel. Any differences between right and left sides of the hips, the shoulders, anything. And then when you're ready, we'll switch. So drawing that left knee, holding with the hand, and circling with the left or right shoulder. So go ahead and begin that movement whenever you're ready, making it as big or as small as you would like. You know, holding that leg with one hand can be a little bit challenging, so maybe you don't make the circles quite as big. What do you observe on this side that's any different than the other side? Are you approaching this a little differently, perhaps, this time? Go ahead and reverse directions. Taking one more circle. And then releasing. Good. And then we'll finish up kind of our warming up movements with a little bit of spinal manipulation. So if you have osteoporosis in the spine, I do not want you to round forward during this movement. So you can do all of the other spinal movements except the rounding forward, okay? So let's take a deep inhale, draw the hands towards the hips, press the belly, ribs, and chest forward, lift that chin. And release that back bend. Take another deep inhale, exhale. Maybe with that right hand, you can trace down the leg of your chair, or maybe you have this block here next to you. We're just going to take a side bend. If you want, you can lift that left arm. Just a breath here. Inhale to come up. Exhale, round forward unless you have osteoporosis in the spine, and then you'll just hold in center. So you're trying to scoop out that belly, press back through the back. Inhaling to come up. Exhale, side reach to that left side. You might not want to do the arm because we're moving pretty quickly here, breath by breath. But it's up to you. Inhale to center and exhale, release. Inhaling to your back bend. And exhale, release. Inhale to maybe lift that left arm. Exhale into your side reach. Inhale up. Exhale, pause here or round forward. Inhaling up. Next inhale, right arm lifts. Exhale, side bend to that left side. Inhale up. And exhale, release. Now I challenge you to go through that 2 more times. I'm not going to give you breathing cues. I'm sorry, I know this might kill some of you, but work with your body. Work with what feels good. We'll meet when we finish our 2 rounds. Just to remind you, we're back bending, then side bending, then forward bending and side bending. Can you listen in and see what feels good? You know, sometimes having a teacher is great. Sometimes the teacher can limit you and limit your connection. When you finish that second round, just coming back to center. Hands on the thighs. Good work. We'll get ready to start our first little sequence here. So let's go ahead, if you have blocks, and bring them to the inside of your feet. And everybody go ahead and open those feet out just a little bit wider than hip width apart. So we don't want to open them out as wide as we can go, but we're just going maybe about the width of your chair legs or the width of your shoulders, just to give you some things to measure against. We'll take an inhale here to lift the arms. Exhale, try to circle those arms back and down as long as it feels okay to the shoulders. Inhaling up. And exhaling back and down. One more time like that. And exhale. Now take a deep inhale. And exhale, start to hinge forward at the hips. So we don't want the back to round. We're trying to really press the belly forward. So just stop whenever you feel like the back would start to round if you kept going. And then inhale, come up. Exhale, hinge forward. Maybe feeling a little stretch in the groin, in the hips. Inhale up. One more time, moving dynamically. We're going to do that one more time now, but we'll fold all the way forward. So if you do have osteoporosis in the spine, or you have congestive heart failure or glaucoma or anything else that makes it uncomfortable or unsafe for you to put your head below your heart, then you are going to hold this stretch. Maybe even bring the hands to the blocks if you can keep the chest lifted. Everyone else that doesn't have anything that I mentioned just now can go into a full forward fold. So we'll all inhale together. Exhale, hinge forward. Keep that back flat as long as you can. And then you may release further into your forward fold. So if you've got blocks, you may want to move them out in front of you. Stretching in the backs of the hips, in the butt. You can keep hands on the thighs for support, especially if you don't have blocks. You may want to walk those blocks further out. So just play around with what feels good to your body in this stretch. And keep in mind, stretching can bring a lot of sensations. Sometimes it's hard to tell what's good and what's bad, but we do our best to try to listen. Typically, sharp shooting or pinching pains are going to be bad. But if we have a tugging, a pulling, a muscular burning, a slight discomfort, we might need that. That might be okay. But sharp shooting, pinching, never okay. If you can, and it feels okay to you, relax that head down. And then slowly you'll start to make your way back up. Maybe walking those blocks in if you're using blocks. Lifting that chest, shoulders, coming all the way back up. Go ahead and take those blocks and bring them back over to the sides. Walk those feet back in. And let's go ahead and try to come into a warrior two pose in the chair. So I'm going to open my legs out kind of as a starting point. With that right leg, I'm going to try to straighten that right leg out. Hips are still mostly squared forward, but possibly at a slight angle here. And keep in mind, you might not be able to get this line. So we're trying to kind of line up so that my heel here intersects my arch here, But you know what? My body might not do that. And that's okay. I have to be okay with that. I have to meet my body where I'm at today, in this moment, right now. So I do my best to match that alignment, but it's not going to hurt me if I can't. Notice what that feels like in the hips. Probably a lot of sensation. Let's see if we can get those arms lifted. Go ahead and flip that left palm up. Right hand can come to the chair or to your hip. Inhale that left arm up. Exhale, moving any amount into like a side bend / back bend here. Inhale to come up. Exhale, other way. So I'm going to bring my elbow to my thigh, or my hand to the chair, or my hand to the block. I'm going to sweep that right arm down and around. So I'm making this long line from my right foot to my right fingertips. And let's inhale to come up. And we'll do that twice more. Open that left palm, right hand comes down. Take an inhale to lift that arm up, and exhale to move any amount into your back bend. Inhale to come out of that back bend. Exhale to bring this elbow down or hand to the chair, sweeping that right arm. Taking a breath here. And now try to move one more time without me cueing your breathing. What feels best to your body? Maybe you remember the cues and you like that and you're going to go with that. Maybe you're doing something different this time with your breathing. Try to be okay with it. Meet back in Warrior Two. Go ahead and release those arms. And now we will, I'm trying to think if I want to try this. Nah, we're good here. Let's go ahead now and try to bend this right knee, coming into goddess pose. So now I'm mirror imaging. So my right leg and my left leg are doing the same thing. I'm really opening out here. Hands are going to come to the thighs, fingers in the front. And from here, I'm going to take a deep inhale, exhale, hinge forward. Probably a lot more sensation than when we were doing this earlier. Make sure the back's not rounding. And then go ahead and come up, release out of that. Now with the hands, you may want to push them back to open out a little bit more. You may not. So just play it by ear. Let's do that 2 more times. So trying to kind of hinge forward, maybe pushing the hands back to deepen that stretch. Taking a couple breaths here. Try to keep those shoulders relaxed. Really push into the feet. If you don't feel stable here, like you feel like you're going to fall out of the chair, then don't lean so far forward. You could try scooting the hips further back, but the chair might obstruct that a little bit. So just take your last fold or hinge forward. Oh yeah, that felt totally fine scooting back in the chair a little. So try that if you want to. And slowly come up. And we'll find Warrior Two now on the other side. So keeping my right foot where it is, straightening out that left leg. Might need to move a block out of the way there. Might want to grab your other block and get it ready if you were using the block for our extended side angle. So I'm doing my best to come to this Warrior Two stance. Bringing those arms up. Finding that power here. That energy pushing through the fingers, pushing through the feet, coming out through the head, all throughout the body. And open that right palm up. Release that left hand to the chair or your hip. Inhale to send that arm up. And exhale, moving any amount into a back bend / side bend. Inhale to come up. And exhale, moving into your side angle. Left arm kind of sweeps forward and around just to protect the shoulder and get the shoulder joint in good positioning. Inhale up. Palm opens. Inhale again to come. And then exhale, back bend. Inhale out of that back bend. Exhale, moving into your side reach. One more time. Take it at your own pattern, your own pace this time. Maybe continuing the exact same thing you did in the first 2 rounds. Maybe you're changing it up a little bit. Going with the flow if your body's kind of asking for something different. Coming back up to Warrior 2. Deep inhale here. And exhale, release those arms. Go ahead and start to bend this left knee again. And let's walk those feet back in to center. Bringing those blocks, if you have them, back between the legs. We'll take a few more of our wider stance forward folds. Now, remember, if you have osteoporosis in the spine, you will stop before the back starts rounding. It can compress and stress fracture your vertebrae potentially. I mean, it would have to be a pretty extreme case, but we don't want to take any risks. If you don't want to do the wider legged stance, you can just do a regular feet hip width apart forward fold. But I recommend trying for the hips to really release here. You could even go a little bit bigger this time. So you were at about shoulder width, chair width apart. Maybe you go a couple inches wider this time. See how you feel. But we're going to take 3 kind of half folds and then we'll come all the way down. So deep inhale to lift and lengthen in the spine. Exhale, little half fold forward just before my back would start rounding. So I'm just kind of testing my range here. Inhaling up. Exhaling forward. Letting that inhale fill me and lift me back up like it's inflating me. One more time, moving fluidly here. And then last exhale forward. This time you can round if it's okay to put the head below the heart or if you don't have osteoporosis in your spine. Really try to push those knees out to the sides. You could even, if you have blocks, hands on the blocks, elbows kind of pushing against the knees and thighs. This is a variation of a forward fold, of a pose called garland pose, malasana in our yoga practice, which is basically a yogic squat. It's kind of a combo. Let that head release if it feels good to you. Maybe move a little side to side if that feels good to you, kind of shifting from one hip to the other. And when you're ready, take an inhale to lift you out of that forward fold. All right. Move those blocks over to the sides. Let's take a little back bend. So we've done a lot of forward folding. We want to kind of balance out those spinal movements a little bit with a nice back bend hold, essentially. So we're going to do a pose called camel pose in the chair. So go ahead and scoot your hips a little further back. We don't necessarily want them all the way back, but let's start out towards the back, 1/3 of your chair. So it could be touching, your hips could be touching all the way back, or they could be as far forward as about 1/3 of the way to the front. We want to test how we feel about this before we hold it. So go ahead and try to open that chest out, that belly. Hands are behind you for support. And see about lowering the shoulder blades to the chair. So if you feel like you get here and you're like, whoo, that's too much of a back bend, too much sensation, come out of it. Scoot the hips further back. So the further the hips are back on the chair, typically the less back bend you'll get in the low back. So it'll be mostly opening in the chest, which is great. So you have to decide for you, do you want mostly just in the chest? Do you want to try to bring it into the whole spine a little bit? What feels best for you? And we're going to hold here for a few breaths. And by a few breaths, I mean like a while. So get as comfortable as you can. That's why that blanket's there, to give you a little padding. Keep about like you were holding an apple or a tennis ball under the chin. So we don't want to let that head just drop back. Even though it might feel good, it's not great for some of our little arteries that run along the spine. So from here, see if you want to bring those arms, palms together. On your inhales, maybe opening. And on your exhales, maybe even releasing the back bend a little bit. Inhale, open, maybe lift that chin. Again, don't let that head drop back though. And exhaling, releasing the back bend a little bit, maybe tucking the chin down to give the neck a break, because you might feel a little strain in the neck. That neck is working, those neck muscles. Take one or two more opening breaths like this. Maybe you want to hold for a breath or two in this open position. Or maybe you want to keep it dynamic. If you're holding that back bend, go ahead and release and relax those arms down. Come back to the front of your chair. Good work. So we'll do a few postures standing and then come back down for relaxation. So go ahead and make your way to standing. If you would like to, you can come up through chair pose. So if you are able to stand without having to put your hands on your thighs or on the chair, if you're able to just come to standing, then you can try this. If you have a block, you may want to just put it between the thighs, just to extra activate those legs. We're going to walk those feet under us. So really, I want my toes under my knees. And when I look down, I shouldn't be able to see my toes. That's going to give me the best advantage to getting out of the chair and up into chair pose, our Utkatasana. So go ahead and bring those arms forward. That will help as well. We want to bring that chest forward, move that center of gravity forward so we can get those hips lifted. But we're not going to come to standing. We're going to hover over that chair. So press into the feet, lift those hips, maybe bringing the hands to the heart here, because this is challenging enough on its own without having to worry about the arms. But if you want to do the full expression of the pose, arms are by the ears. So kind of overhead. Yeah, this one works you. Hold it as long as you can. Whenever you feel like you need to stand, do it. And try not to let the brain decide. That brain is saying, I'm going to do what Aline's doing. I'm going to hold it longer. I'm going to push my, whatever. Try not to listen to that. Try to listen to what your body's saying. And whenever you need to, whenever you're ready, slowly start to come to standing. And if you're still in chair pose, go ahead and come on up. And let's move to, we're actually going to stay in front of our chair for this standing sequence. So if balance is a big issue for you, you may want to grab a second chair and bring it here next to you, just in case you feel that you need a little more support than the seat of the chair. So what we'll be doing is lining up with kind of the middle of the seat of our chair. So I'm starting with my left side facing the chair. If you want to do the same, go for it. I'm going to bring my left heel in line with the leg of that chair. Maybe I'm holding on to the back just for a little bit of balance. And I'm going to try to take a step back with my right foot. And then I'm going to open those toes out. So I'm coming to a pose called triangle pose here. We're going to use the chair for support for our hand. And depending on my comfort level, maybe I'm walking that foot a little further out. It's up to you. You'll get more stretch that way. Inhale those arms up. On your exhale, you're going to try to bring this left hand to the seat of the chair. So we're reaching forward a little bit and then reaching down. So this hand is coming to the seat of my chair. I'm going to bring this right arm maybe just straight up to the ceiling. Maybe if that hurts, I'm just letting that arm hang down along my side. Maybe it feels good to bring that arm along the ear or even to open that chest out more. So it's really up to you where you want to go. Maybe the hands on the hip. We're just trying to feel that stretch all along the side, all in this hip, maybe other places too, depending on our body. And trying to breathe here in this triangle pose. You can also do this behind the chair. So if you feel that the chair is too low for you to come into this stretch, then you can move behind the chair. You could even bring a block, if you have it, to the seat of the chair, so you're not going quite as far into that side reach. Let's take another breath or two here. Trying to open that heart up towards the ceiling. And slowly coming up out of it may be the hardest part. You might want to actually just bend those legs and sit down in your chair. Okay, so that's an option. That's safe. If you want to test your balance a little and you feel good about that, you can come back up to standing and then release. Then we're going to do the other side. So I can sort of work with where my feet are. Maybe just kind of walking. I want to make sure my right foot is somewhere in line with this chair leg. That way I know that I can get my hand to the chair. So if I am too far forward and I start to come down, I got nowhere to put this hand. So I want to make sure that right foot is lined up somewhere with my chair leg. And then I'm opening out that left foot to get whatever depth I want here. Maybe I've got that block in the seat of the chair to lessen the intensity of the stretch. See if you can get those arms out. Test that balance a little bit. Take a deep inhale. And exhale, reach forward and then down. Sending that left arm perhaps along the ear, perhaps to the ceiling, maybe opening out, or maybe to the hip. Or maybe you're kind of moving between all of those options. I'm going to go a little deeper, bringing my hand to the chair. Take about 3 more breaths here. Triangle pose or Trikonasana. And then when you're ready to come out of this, remember you can just come to seated in the chair, or you can test that balance and strength a little bit and see if you can lift yourself back up and then release. Excellent work. From here, we're going to come back to seated. So that standing posture kind of served as our balance test for today. I did want to leave enough time for a very juicy hip stretch to really release any last bit of tightness and tension in there, any last bit of control freak. Get it out. So for this next stretch, coming back down to your chair, pigeon pose. This one is a mouthful if we're talking in Sanskrit. Ekapada Raja Kapanasana, one-legged king pigeon pose. So for this posture, let's start to draw that right knee into the chest. Ideally, if we can manage it, we're going to then take this leg and cross it over our thigh. If you can't quite manage to do that, maybe you don't have enough flexibility to draw that knee up and get that ankle over, then you're going to cross your ankle, your right ankle over your left ankle. Either way, wherever you're crossing, we're letting that knee open out to the side. And so if I'm crossed at the ankles, from here, I'm going to bring both hands to that left thigh and just hinge forward until I feel a stretch all in the back, the butt, the hip, and just kind of sink into that stretch. If I have managed to bring this leg over, then I'm still bringing both hands to that left thigh, and I'm also trying to hinge forward. And it's really important here that you're really trying to press the belly forward. So I don't want you to think of like, I'm bringing my head down towards my legs, because then you're going to round forward. We want to keep the back long and hinge right here in the hip crease. That's what's going to really get the maximum stretch here and be the most beneficial and safe for your spine. All right, so once you reach that point where you feel that stretch, let's close the eyes and try to take in all the sensations that we're feeling. Sometimes we try to block out sensations of especially pain in the body. So what are you feeling? Where are you feeling that tug, that pull? Maybe a slight discomfort. And as you hold here, do you feel anything release? Can you maybe come a little deeper into your fold? And depending on your flexibility and if you have blocks, I mean, you might be able to bring hands to blocks. I like to just really keep my hands on either that right ankle or that left thigh, but really not wanting to put any weight into that right leg. Take a moment as you're breathing here a little longer to bring to mind something that you want to let go from your life. Something that no longer serves you, that brings misery. Maybe you want to let go of your need to control. Maybe you want to let go of anger, of fear. What can you let go of that you have the power to let go of? On an inhale, when you're ready, slowly come out of your stretch. Taking that right knee, maybe you want to just kind of open it out and just move it around a little bit, like just kind of release. Even though we were spending a lot of time releasing in those muscles. And then pause here and just notice any differences you might feel between the right and the left hip, the right and the left side of the back. And let's even out any unevenness that maybe you're feeling in the body. When you're ready, drawing that left knee up to the chest. And then either crossing at the thigh or crossing at the ankle. And when you're ready, starting that hinge forward. And you may notice on one side, your knees higher up towards the chest than the other. And I'll tell you right now, that's part of being human. We are usually asymmetrical in terms of our strength, of our flexibility from one side to the other. Remember the idea of folding. So the belly is moving forward, not the head or the shoulders. Find that sensation and try to stay there in that slight discomfort, that slight rubbing against the grain, a place that you might not go on your own. As long as you're not feeling any sharp shooting or pinching pain, then you're going to want to back off. Try to lean in. Lean in, let go. And closing the eyes here for a few breaths. Maybe with each exhale you take, you're envisioning actually releasing whatever it is you want to be gone from your life. So perhaps character traits. For me right now, I'm thinking a lot about letting go of anger. I've noticed that I'm quicker to anger lately. Especially if it has to do with something that, like, I've asked somebody to do something and they don't do it. So that's that control side of me. And I mean, what can you expect when you ask a 1.5-year-old? Try to relax the body into these last few breaths. Relaxing the shoulders and the mouth and the face. Letting the stretch work its magic. And inhale when you're ready will slowly lift you back up. Taking a moment, slowly uncrossing the ankle, maybe just moving that leg around a little bit to decompress. And then I'd say we're ready and relaxed for Shavasana, corpse pose. So if you're still going to work in this same chair, make sure you've got that blanket. Let's get as comfortable as we can. So releasing, kind of in a semi-reclined position. If you are fortunate enough to be able to make your way to a couch or a comfy recliner chair or something like that, then go for that. Really let yourself relax here. So if you're staying in the chair, I recommend, like I bend and straighten my legs to just kind of work out any holding patterns. So I may be tempted to kind of like hold my legs together and like hold tension in my lower body, but I don't want to do any of that. We really want to like release. So I kind of do a little bit of movements like this and then just let those legs do what they're going to do. You can let the arms dangle. I like to just kind of rest my hands on my low belly. So just figure out what works best for you, where you're going to relax the most, let go of the most muscular tension. And let's take 3 breaths of release here. So what we're going to do is take a deep, full inhale, and on the exhale, we're going to sigh out loud, loudly. Release it. So take a deep inhale. One more. Then let go of your breathing too. No more control or effort. Just letting the body breathe itself. We've done our work with our practice. Now we're letting the body take over. We're allowing the body to integrate everything that it's learned in today's practice. This is like letting it all set. Resting here in the knowledge that you've made change, that you've made growth physically, perhaps mentally and emotionally. If you're finding it challenging to let go right now, mentally especially, begin to focus on the space of the hips. The space of our second chakra or energy center. The space at the base of our spine, where our spinal cord spreads out into our sciatic nerves and other nerves that run down into the legs. And in that space, begin to feel a warmth radiating. a sense of warm, open, light, orange in color. First, just localized to this area, the pelvis. But as you begin to observe it, to notice more that space, that orange light begins to spread down towards the feet, up towards the head. Each breath filling a little bit more, a little bit more. Spreading that ability to let go of control, of trust. Trust in ourselves, trust in others, trust in the process. And spreading growth, so much growth. Our ability to then change and transform once we can open this space. We have so many more possibilities. That orange light, warmth has spread now through the whole body, filling every cell, every corner. You can release that imagery. And begin to bring some small movements back. The toes start to wiggle. Pointer fingers move to the thumbs. And then the next finger to thumb. Ring finger to thumb. Pinky finger to thumb. Starting to point and flex the feet. Starting to make fists. Then spread the fingers apart. Just slowly waking those joints back up. Moving the body in any way that feels good to you. And maybe taking a nice long stretch. Reaching up through the fingers and out through the feet. And if it's easy for you to come to a seated position, go ahead and do that. But if it will take a lot of effort, maybe stay reclined. And drawing the palms together in front of the heart. Just taking a moment to express gratitude to yourself. And I am so thankful that you joined me for practice today. And may this power of letting go, of release, of going with the flow, may it shine out in your thoughts, in your actions, in your words. Namaste. When you're ready, you can blink open those eyes. Thank you again for joining me today. If you have any questions, any requests, please reach out to me. You can call me or email me. And soon enough, stop by the office. but not till April. All right, y'all. Thank you again. And I hope you go out and enjoy your day and maybe try to see where you can let go of that need for control in your life. It could be something so simple, but can change so much with your stress levels and with your perception of everything. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Bye.